For page 96, it asks me to actually tells me a family drives from Rochester to San Francisco for a vacation. The miles driven per day is shown in the table below. In the set of axes, draw a graph that models the family's distance from Rochester. So the first thing we need to do is recognize that a scale is going on. We have different days along the x-axis, and my distance from Rochester is along the y-axis. And we'll notice on day 1, the family drove from Rochester to Cincinnati. The middle column is right here, is more for just information purposes. The location or the destination really doesn't matter, nor does this column right here. The only 2 columns that really matter are the days, which we're going to put along the x-axis, and the miles traveled, which we're going to put along the y-axis. So if I plot these 2 coordinates out on day 1, I want to plot, and I want to make 550 miles. I'll notice I go from 0 to 1,000, so it looks like each one of these intervals is going at about 200 miles per. And I also have to understand, and you have to understand as a student, numbers like 550, I can't expect you to be exact with that measurement. 550 is a little bit more than halfway to 1,000. So as long as you make that a little bit above halfway between 0 and 1,000, that's going to be completely fine. On day 1, they arrived from Rochester to Cincinnati is 550 miles. What gets tricky here is on day 2, we drive another 350 miles, which is going to be a total of 900 miles from Rochester, assuming that we've continued to drive away from Rochester. So on day 2, I should be 900 miles away. On day 3, they didn't drive at all, so they're just going to maintain 900 miles away. On day 4, we had another 260 miles, so that's going to be 1,160 miles. And that's going to be my day 4, 1,160 miles, which is going to be slightly less than 1,200. What gets a little bit tricky here is day 5 gets skipped. So they stay on day 5 at that exact same distance. But on the 6th day, they drive 623 more miles. Which makes it 1,783 miles away from Rochester. And that is going to occur on the 6th day. So it'll be a little bit less than 1,800 miles. On the 7th day, another 482 miles gets driven, which is a total of 2,265 miles, or a little bit more than 2,200 miles. On the 8th day, another 587 miles get driven. Which makes a total of 2,852 miles for day 8, or slightly above 2,800 miles. Day 9, there are no miles driven, nor are there any miles driven on day 10, so my line is going to flatten right out. My rate of change is 0. But on the 11th day, another 218 miles get driven, which means a total of 3,070 miles, which is slightly more than 3,000. For days 12, 13, and 14, they maintain that same exact distance. And on the 15th day, we have a mistake that I just noticed, because it implies that they drove 2,719 more miles, which is not very realistic, so Mr. Dingy needs to fix that. And I'll be left with a graph that looks like this when all is said and done. in all honesty, if you're looking for this example here, is probably above and beyond what the actual Regents exam would offer. And I can tell you tomorrow, if you ask me in class, I'll give you a perfect example of the way it probably will be asked. I'll show you the question this was modeled after.